What's up everybody, it's Sean here, and I'm here today to give you guys my personal ranking of Season 1 of Teddy Santis and New Balance's Made in USA 990 collection. Today's video is sponsored by Coolest Rugs. So Coolest Rugs is a Canadian-owned small business, and they manufacture handmade rugs based on your custom designs. So they hooked me up with this amazing rug featuring my personal logo, which I thought was absolutely incredible. So if you guys want a really dope rug just like this, be sure to check out their Instagram, which I'll link down below in the description box, and be sure to tell them I sent you. So Teddy Santis, better known as the founder of Aimé Leon d'Or, was also named the creative director of New Balance's Made in USA line last year. And in 2022, his biggest project so far was releasing 16 pairs of New Balance's 990 series, all of which were made in the USA. So all 16 pairs of Season 1 has officially released to the public, and there's supposed to be a Season 2 and a 3 as well, featuring slightly different silhouettes, which I'm personally very excited about. In a perfect world, I'd hope for some 990 V4s, some 998s, 997s, and fingers crossed maybe down the line some 999s as well. But for now and in today's video, I want to list and rank all 16 pairs from my least favorite to my most favorite. And obviously, this is a completely subjective list. My list, I hope, is going to be completely different than yours. So take this list with a grain of salt, and please don't be offended if I rank something low, that you have something ranked high. With a collection that's 16 pairs deep, it's going to be near impossible for everyone to have the exact same ranking. So starting off the list at number 16, I have the 990 V3 in the Scarlet colorway. I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this one, but the reason why I put this at the bottom of my list is that it really just reminds me of a general release colorway, and it's a colorway we've seen before on, for example, the 993. So it just was a very uninspiring colorway, and because it felt so unspecial, that's why I have it at number 16. Next up at number 15, I have the 990 V1 in the Macadamia Nut colorway. So I'll tell you straight up that the 990 V1 isn't my favorite silhouette of choice, and of the V1, V2, and V3, even if the colorway was dope, because it was a V1, I just had it naturally ranked lower on my list. So this Macadamia Nut colorway, it was decent, but I didn't love the black accents. And while it still looks dope on feet on other people, it's just not really a shoe that I would personally wear. Next up at number 14, we have the Chrysanthemum 990 V2. So this is a shoe I also reviewed on my channel, and while I thought the color combination was pretty unique, I think I mentioned in my review of that shoe as well, a mix of red and navy blue just isn't really my favorite color combination. It kind of reminds me of the recently released Supreme SB Dunk Highs, and while it has that sort of collegiate feel to it, it's just not something I can see myself wearing personally. Moving on to number 13, we have the Marigold 990 V2. So I gotta give credit to New Balance and Teddy Santis for this one. This pair is probably one of the loudest of the 16, but when it comes down to it, how often am I gonna wear a very bold and bright orange sneaker? Probably not that often. I respect what they were doing, but I just don't personally connect with that colorway, and that's why I have it ranked this low. Next up on my list, we have the 990 V1 in the Marblehead colorway. So the Marblehead trio of the V1, V2, and V3, I think this is probably the best color blocking and color combination of the Teddy Santis 16. However, like I mentioned earlier, the V1 isn't really my favorite silhouette, and because the V2 and V3 I just thought were so much better than the V1, I had to put the V1 lower on my list. Moving on to number 11, we have the True Camo or Black 990 V2. I know this is probably a favorite for a lot of people watching, and I can totally see why it's really popular. Black with cream and white, it just makes it a very easy shoe to pull off, and makes it a very versatile colorway as well. But personally, I passed on this release entirely, and it wasn't because I thought the colorway was ugly. I just thought that in order to be a bit more choosy and selective with what I spend my money on, I really want the colorway to be either unique or just really speak to me in some way. And honestly, a black-based New Balance 990 V2 isn't really up there on top of my list, so that's why it missed out on my top 10. So taking the spot at number 10, we have the navy and sea salt and red 990 V2. So this colorway is also a very unique colorway in my opinion. It has that sort of Americana vibe to it, a very collegiate vibe as well. And I think the specific color placement on the shoe was very different, with the middle portion being mostly cream or off-white, and then we have more of those accents of colors on the back and the front. I thought it was a very new and refreshing kind of look, and when it's all said and done, it's probably a shoe that I wouldn't mind keeping in my collection. Moving on to number 9, we have the Navy and Castlerock 990 V2. So don't get me wrong, the mixture of the dark blue and the light blue, I thought it worked very well together. And if anything, I felt like maybe it was missing a slight pop of color, for example, the red that the Navy V3 had. And also another reason why I have it ranked lower on my list is because I also own the Kith 990 V2 in the steel blue colorway, and just because those two colors are so similar, I didn't really feel like I needed to keep both pairs. Moving on to number 8, we have the recently reviewed olive leaf and black 990 V3. So this colorway, it reminds me of so many different things: Donatello, the Hulk, Stray Rats. So obviously it's a very different sort of colorway. It doesn't utilize the same tan or earthy tones that the majority of the Teddy Santis 16 pairs utilize. But that's also a good thing as well. The mixture of the olive green with the very loud pops of purple, I think it works very well together. And while it's not necessarily a colorway that's very easy to pull off, I like how different it looks, and it's probably a pair that I would likely keep in my collection too. Moving on to number 7, we have the 990 V2 in the Sea Salt colorway. So this pair obviously is very simplistic, and it's a very versatile and easy to wear shoe. But when you compare it to the other pairs in my list, obviously this is a V2, and personally I like the V3 silhouette much more than the V2. I just think it's much more comfortable, and it feels more lightweight and airy as well. But I appreciate the materials used. I like how they utilize leather instead of suede for this one, and that's why it's my second favorite V2 from the collection. And right above this, at number 6, we have the other V2 and the last one on my list, which is the Marblehead 990 V2. So this one, like I mentioned before, released alongside the V1 and the V3, and I think if they released the V2 by itself without the other two pairs, I probably would have ranked it higher on my list. However, the color blocking is pretty much identical to the V1 and the V3, which kind of hurts it when it comes to the ranking. I do like how it has more of a sophisticated and a bit more of a mature vibe compared to the V3, but like I just mentioned, V3 over V2 when it comes to a silhouette, and I just think that because it's so similar to the V3, I wouldn't wear it nearly as much. But don't get me wrong, the materials were great, the color blocking was great, and I can totally see people having it ranked at the top of their lists. Moving on to number 5, we have the V3 in the Moonbeam colorway. So this is a very dope colorway as well. By contrasting the cream with the very dark gray and black hits, the end result is sort of a mix of both worlds. It has those natural cream colored tones, but at the same time there's a bit more pop and accent, which makes it stand out a bit when you wear it on feet a bit more. Next up at number 4, we have the Navy and Springtide 990 V3. Like I was saying before for the V2, I like this one a lot more because it adds that complementary color of red on the tongue. And I think that really sets this pair apart, even though it's very similar to the Kith 990 V3 Steel Blue that released weeks after this one. I think the mix of the two tones of blue with the cream and the small hit of red makes it stand out on its own. And to add to the fact that the V3 in itself is a very comfortable silhouette, it's a no-brainer why people have this ranked so highly. And now we're at the top 3. Rounding out the list at number 3, we have the Sea Salt 990 V3. So this pair, what I like most about it is that it's just so easy to wear. First of all, the 990 V3 is extremely comfortable. The shoe is also made out of leather instead of suede, so I don't have to worry too much about getting it dirty or wet, and the colorway of the shoe speaks for itself. This being predominantly white with cream and a little bit of black accents, it's pretty much a shoe I can pull off with anything I want to wear outfit-wise. And even though it's similar to the YCMC 990 V3 that released not too long ago, I do like how it utilizes leather instead of suede, and that's why it's a no-brainer at number 3 on my list. And now we're at number 2. So taking the first runner-up spot on my list is the Raw Amethyst 990 V3. So this colorway, for some reason, I really was drawn to it. The uniqueness of it, that shade of violet, it was so different than anything I'd ever seen and anything I own in my New Balance collection. I also think that the quality of the materials was very nice. I like the use of the long-haired suede, and yes, even though it's not necessarily the most easy shoe to pull off outfit-wise, I like how this pair was such a departure from the majority of the other colorways, and it's a real head turner and it really stood out on its own. So finally, we are at the number 1 spot, and my all-time favorite shoe from season 1 of the Teddy Santis New Balance collection goes to the Marblehead 990 V3. This one was the first shoe in the collection that really generated a lot of hype. And when they released alongside the V1 and the V2, it made sense why the V3 was the most popular. Just like I've mentioned before, the V3, in my humble opinion, is the most comfortable of the 3 silhouettes. It's very lightweight, very airy, and I just think the color blocking and the color combination and the mix of materials used on this shoe made it pretty much flawless. This to me is quintessential Teddy Santis, and you can really see his touch utilized on this specific pair. And at the same time, the color blocking, while it utilizes different shades and different materials, it's still a relatively neutral shoe to pull off, which makes it a shoe that you can wear a lot if you have it in your collection. So that wraps up my ranking of the first 16 pairs of the Teddy Santis New Balance Made in USA line. Let me know in the comment section down below, what did you guys agree with, what did you guys disagree with, and how would you rank your top 3 to 5 or 10, whatever you want to list. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm very curious to see what you guys have to say. If you guys like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can follow me on Instagram at sgo8, follow me on Twitter at sean.go, and visit my website at seango.ca. Before I end this video, another shout out goes out to the sponsor for today's video, Coolest Rugs. So again, anyone looking for an amazingly made rug, be sure to check out their Instagram, which I've linked down below. So thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one.